Good day, everyone. I am Attorney Bert Estrada, and I'm here to share with you the journey of the Bukidnon Tugalwanon tribe towards interfacing capability and in our journey in inclusive growth through inclusive business. So, the Bukidnon Tagulwanon tribe of Malaybalay is the primordial people of Bukidnon, especially here in Malaybalay City. We are a indigenous cultural community who still maintain and have preserved our indigenous culture and continue to observe our batasan or our moral codes or the indigenous moral codes that was handed down to us by our ancestors. So what you see here is a portion of our ancestral domain here in Malaybalay. And yes, it is quite uh, a view, but as you can also observe, there is not much economic activity that is going on within the ancestral domain. But this is also something that I have observed in most of the ancestral domains that I have visited. It is vast areas of land, but there's not much economic activity. And I believe uh, is one of the reasons why our indigenous communities are still beset with poverty. And that has also prevented the preservation and the development of the environment, especially our river basins, which affects not only the indigenous communities but everyone. So our ancestral domain has already been given government recognition sometime in 2015 after 20 years when my father applied or filed an application for the issuance of a CADTI. So in 2015, our ancestral domain was awarded CADTI number R10-MLY-115-193. But after the award of this recognition, I still saw that it was not enough. The recognition of the ownership over the ancestral domain still did not allow uh, the indigenous communities to be able to develop the ancestral domain because the tribe, although already an organized group of people, organized even before there was any central government, but it is not a juridical person uh, if we if we look at the present legal system. So with that, I was challenged to study the IPRA law and see what else needs to be done in order that the mandate of the constitution that the indigenous peoples are supposed to be protected and provided with equal opportunities in order to uplift their economic and socio-cultural well-being. So we discovered that after the CADTI and after also the formulation of your ancestral domain sustainable development and protection plan, or HDPP, there's a need to have the confirmation of your indigenous political structure um, in order that the the governance, the leadership, and the processes, the consensus building, and the conflict resolution mechanisms of the uh, customary laws are validated and confirmed by the state. This uh, would give the indigenous peoples a recognition from government as to its political structure, which we believed would help in the stability within the domain, no? Because with government recognition, then we can have uh, more stability, more predictability for others to deal with us, because the governance structure has government recognition. So in 2017, we uh, we received the confirmation of our indigenous political structure, and one of the things that are contained there is that uh, not only the leadership structure but also the consensus building of the tribe. No? So this is the certificate of confirmation awarded by the NCIP. After that, we already sought out many partners or possible investors into how we can be able to um, come up with uh, livelihood programs, economic activities that will provide livelihood for our members and allow us to develop our ancestral domain, but also support us in our strive towards self determination. So it was a very providential event that I got to meet Mr. Bobby Ansaldo, who happened to be the project director of a USAID funded program, uh, which was the promotion of inclusive growth through inclusive business. So the business was uh, originally conceptualized because of the flooding that happened in the Cagayan de Oro and the Taguluan River Basin, especially when what happened with the Sendong floods, no, which um, one of the main factors is the uh, deforestation of the mountains here in Bukidnon. And so the program was, the goal was that in order to develop protection in the headwaters and in the watersheds, there are many there are many programs for greening, for tree planting, but um, there are very few successful uh, plantings or greening programs. And one of the reasons that we think is uh, the reason why is because there's no community that actually protects or develops this. The indigenous communities who own and live in these watersheds are not involved in these programs. No, so they might be uh, temporarily used as a labor force, but it is not something that they really are a part of, other than the a few months of work and salary for the planting. So the program sought to develop an inclusive business model wherein um, the tree planting business, in order for it to be sustained, there's a need to include, no, to include the owners of these areas themselves, the indigenous peoples, in the business of establishing plantations. And it is the it is the theory that if the communities themselves are engaged in the business of establishing these plantations, then not only will the plantations um, have a higher rate of success, because The community is there to take care of it, to maintain it, but it also uh, now provides the opportunity for inclusive growth, wherein the marginalized sector, the underprivileged sector, one of which are the indigenous peoples, are really made part of the business itself, and they are directly benefiting from these activities. And so they're engaged not merely as laborers, as land lessors, but as partners in the business itself. And hence, inclusive business means that it is the inclusion of the poor in the core business of business. So in the agribusiness, in contract growing, for example, in Del Monte, in its papaya program, then it should be the owners of the land, no, and the tillers of the crop that really are engaged in the business itself, even as partners, no, with those who need such products. In that way, the the plantations are 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 more likely to be sustained, and we would have um, supported the social reform wherein the base of the pyramid, the marginalized sector, feel the growth, no? That the growth trickles down to the marginalized sector if they are made to be part of the business itself. So the owner of the land is the cultivators of the crop, not merely as laborers. So with that, we saw that under the IPRA law, after the after you would have had registered your indigenous political structure, or rather have it confirmed, not registered because it actually existed even before the law, but have it confirmed, then you can create your Indigenous Peoples Organization, or IPO, which under the law is supposed to be the technical and the economic arm of the tribe. The arm which is now a recognized juridical person under our present legal system. So the Indigenous Peoples Organization can either be a cooperative or a corporation or even a registered association. The purpose of which is that if you have an arm that uh, that is recognized under our present legal system, then the indigenous community need not abandon its own political structure in order to interface or interact with the present legal system. So, as I mentioned earlier, although the tribe has been organized even before any present centralized government ever existed, but today the tribe cannot themselves go to the bank and borrow money because it is not a juridical person under our present legal system. But through the creation of the Indigenous Peoples Organization, wherein we decided to have our cooperative, now the cooperative is a recognized juridical person under our laws. So it is recognizable by the banks, by the local government units, and so it can now interface or engage with the present legal system in order to come up with programs, projects, economic activities, access those equal opportunities that are the objective of our constitution and our IPRA law. So we set out in making our cooperative with a mission to create a cooperative which will serve as the economic arm of the tribe, which is an accepted juridical personality that can access opportunities for capital and enter into commercial transactions to establish a 100-hectare cacao plantation. The vision is for the Bukidnon Tagulwanon tribe to be able to develop its ancestral domain through sustainable programs that is in keeping with its indigenous culture and traditions, and will uplift the economic conditions of its members to enable them to continue to live as indigenous people and pass on to the next generation its culture. So we were able to identify portions of our ancestral domains. As you can see, um, there are still vast areas which are uh, denuded, no? And one of the major bodies of water here in northern Mindanao is the Tagulwan River. That is the Tagulwan River. And if we are able to develop and put up uh, forest plantations or agroforestry in those denuded areas, then it will not just provide livelihood but also ensure the preservation and development of this great body of water for the benefit of everyone here from Bukidnon towards Samis Oriental. So, set out identifying the area. So, this is a picture of our ancestral domain here in Malaybalay. It is composed of more or less 990 hectares. So, the purple portion there was our intended plantation area, the pictures I have shown earlier. So, with that, we went through consultations with our Council of Elders together with Sir Bob Ansaldo there, um, whether or not to engage in this journey, in this program of inclusive growth or inclusive business. And so, with that, the Council of Elders of the Bukidnon Tagaloan tribe supported the inclusive growth project and came up with a resolution to undertake this program. Thereafter, because we want to do business in order to provide livelihood, develop our ancestral domain, we went through business planning workshops with the aid of USAID and the Chamber of Commerce. So we had a series of business planning workshops. And in that workshop, we were able to identify a viable business in cacao. The reason being that it is suitable to our land elevation. It is a perennial crop. It has a short gestation period. It has a lifespan, uh, which is termed as a century plant because it can be productive for even 100 years. No? And most importantly, there was an existing land bank loan window. No? There in land bank offers uh, financial uh, lending opportunities for small farmers under their Cacao 100 program. So that we formulated with the help again of USAID, and our members here are also knowledgeable uh, in doing feasibility studies. So we developed our business plan for the establishment of that envisioned 100 hectares cacao and banana plantation. So important in order to access these opportunities, if to borrow a bank, again going back, you need to have a juridical personality, your IPO. And so we uh, went through the CDA or Cooperative Development Authority pre-registration seminars and even visited our honorable CDA chairman, who I know is also one of the speakers in this today's activity. And the result of that is that we had our uh, cooperative registered, and it's also, again, our indigenous peoples organization. So we now call it the Bukidnon Tagulwanon Mulahay Hu Kabukalagan Agricultural Cooperative, or the Planters Cooperative or Agriculture Cooperative. Then, of course, because you want to go into business, we also complied with all the other requirements for a juridical person to be able to engage in commercial contracts, apply for loans, receive grants. So we have our BIR registration. We are duly registered with the BIR. We have our business permits. We also have our business tax exemption from the BIR, and we continuously comply. We have our certificates of compliance with the CDA and the BIR. So these are the uh, these are the needed registrations and compliances that you can actually go into business. So this is something that the indigenous cooperative has to also comply. And with that, we then set out to apply a loan under the Cacao 100 program of the Land Bank. So we wrote a letter, applied for a loan. We intended to have just 50 hectares because we wanted to borrow money so that we can put up a business just like the other members of society. The opportunity to borrow money is there for other people to put up business. Then if we are saying equal opportunity, this is something that should be available also for the indigenous peoples. The laws provides already that yes, it is available, but you have to first uh, come up with all those registrations in order for you to be able to have access to these opportunities. And that is what precisely what we have done. So after applying, then we went to found our potential business partner in Kennemer Foods Incorporated in Davao City, who is one of the biggest buyers of cacao beans. So we went there, and we know that they have this demand for cacao beans, but their usual business model is they lease lands, establish plantations themselves, which are also high risk for business. So what we offered is that because we have the land, we have people who need work, we are applying for a loan. If they need beans, we can plant cacao and we can sell them the beans without them needing already to lease or buy lands or even invest heavily in the plantation establishment, because it will be us who will be running and establishing our plantations, will be managing it. They will be a ready market. So because of that, we signed a marketing agreement. So in this picture is Simon Baker, the owner of the Kennemer Foods, myself, and between us is undersecretary for finance and also the country representative for USAID. So we signed a marketing agreement, uh, essentially that Buktamako will produce the beans, Kennemer will buy the beans, and we brought this document to Land Bank because we do not have collateral. The ancestral domain does not have any collateral value. We also do not still have our 3-year financial statement at that point in time, which are requirements of Land Bank before you can borrow money. So we showed them this marketing agreement and told them that this is our proof that we are able to pay. We will be able to repay our loan because there is already a ready buyer. There's also we already have this contract, and um, Land Bank fortunately supported our endeavor and made us a proof of concept that even without those requirements of a 3-year financial statement of a collateral, they let us borrow money for our first 10 hectares of cacao plantation. So we converted it into a tripartite agreement for our cooperative, Kennemer, and Land Bank. So we set out again, found our 10 hectares where we will plant the initial cacao plantation. Of course, because we are doing this ourselves, Then we sent our members who were interested and went through cacao trainings program in Kedimer. So they spent about 2 weeks there. And when they come back, they were already equipped with the knowledge of um, how to raise and maintain cacao. So they became cacao doctors. Of course, sampling of the soil uh, went through that as well. So field validations by land bank. So everything that the usual business goes through, we also went through. After that, because we were allowed already to borrow money, our provincial government uh, invited us, and because he saw that we already had that, we're allowed to borrow money from land bank, then the the theory was that we also have the absorptive capacity to receive substantial grants from government. So we said yes, that is also one of that's the absorptive capacity that we have worked on to have, not just uh, the juridical personality now allows us to um, apply for loans and also to receive grants. And so our provincial government, through our governor Jose Maria Arsubiri, supported us to be able to expand and come up with our intended mission of 100 hectares. So we gave them our business plan, and it was approved by the local government unit, and budget was allocated in the amount of 30 million pesos. But it is all in kind. No, we did not receive cash itself, but in kind. So here, this was the time when we met the governor and lobbied for the support of the project, which he supported already. Then we, as part of the support of that of our business plan, is that there is a need for uh, in order to sustain the business, especially at its infancy stage, is to have workers who will do uh, the work. No, we cannot always depend on just uh, pure volunteerism. Volunteerism is there always because that's part of our culture also, the Bayanihan spirit. Here we call it uh, the Hunlusa. But in reality, people can just volunteer their time, maybe a good 1 or 2 days, as much as they want to volunteer. They have to go out and find work to provide for their families. So in order for this business, these plantations to really be sustained, we had to have to find the support to help our members be able to focus on the task they are given in the business that we have come up with. And so the provincial government has allowed or supported that our members who are part of the uh, cooperative are job order employees of the province. So they are paid monthly as job order employees. So they went also to uh, seminars on how to become employees of the provincial government. So they receive salaries and all those benefits. So they can focus now. Their efforts are focused on really establishing and implementing the business plan that we made. So now we have actually this is an old slide. We have more already. There we have already 12 staff office personnels. So they are the bookkeepers, the cashiers, our COO or chief operating officer. We have our plantation supervisors, then our lead men. So they are the ones there in the field, uh, manning and supervising and implementing the plantation establishment. And myself, I am the chief executive officer, but I am not a an employee of the province. So I do this pro bono. So with that, with the support of the of our workers, then we received already the inputs that are there. Started with corn, the corn being the cash crop that which we used to in starting our plantations. We planted corn so that this can be cash crop for also for our members, no? While we await the gestation period of planting banana and cacao. So we were given 200 sacks of corn. That's worth 1 million pesos. That's part of what government has given us. Also, part of the program. So there, shovels, knapsack sprayers, grab hoe, plastic drums, all those equipments needed to undertake this plantation establishment. Then seedlings started to arrive, cacao, banana, all those things. Even inputs, fertilizers, and other farm inputs were also part of the business plan that was supported by the provincial government and also used our funds from land bank as well. Also, farm animals, which we are very essential in order to uh, uh, undertake agricultural activities. So we were given with 10 actually. Now we already have 13 because some of the carabaos have already had offsprings. So we already also have our own animal dispersal program. So then, of course, undertaking the plantation itself, staking, hole digging, actual planting. This was about 3 years ago. Planting cacao was very tedious business, no? Because you have to take care of them like a baby. You have to put shelter over them if you do not have shade trees. So the planting of the banana came in late because the seedlings came in much later than the cacao. Uh, that's also one of the things that we have to look out for when we do agricultural business because it's time bound. But we had no choice. We had to plant. The seedlings were there, although the nurse plants were still not there. So we planted them anyway and came up with the solution of putting up shade for them. So that's the shading that we did. So now, after 3 years, this is our cacao. They're already fruit bearing and we'll be harvesting within within the first half probably of this year, no? Before by June or maybe July, we'll already be harvesting and already be selling to Kennymer and we'll be starting to repay our loan. And our farmers will already receive their share, so it will help in their daily needs. And the funds also that will be accumulated by our cooperative will also be used for other programs. So there's also the bananas are already big. So this is already about 26 hectares of cacao and banana plantation. If you can see there, that's what it used to look like in last year. This is one of the later plantations that we established. Now, after a year, that's what it looks like. And people have hope that they're now going to earn more income because of this. So the cooperative provides accesses, gets the opportunities, and then serves the members, does the planning, does the implementation, the members implement. So we are a service provider. So see, so this one is very promising that will provide economic upliftment. So we also have other activities already because of what we have. We received also tools and equipments for our carpentry group. We have our lalanguya or swimming pool. We have our allied IPO also, the Taguluanon Women Weavers Association. They weave indigenous mats. No? So these are the things also we received. So we have our own carpentry group. Our lalanguya or our swimming pool was turned over to us by the city government. Also, the old sanitary landfill, now we are using it for our other activities. This is where we store our inputs. This is where we also have our nursery and our vermicast. So this is the women weavers. So of course, we also engage in cooperative movements, being a cooperative. So we also uh, collaborate with other cooperatives. Collaboration, very important. So collaborate also with TESDA. We have some of our members, the carpenters, already received uh, certifications through trainings. We have done charcoal business. This is the only legal charcoal that was available here because we applied for all the permits, used those felled logs, trees that are old and that they fall down naturally because of age. So we used them as charcoal and had a business for it, provide also livelihood. Abaca as well. Uh, we received a decorticating machine as a donation from one of our friends, Mr. Philip Ong, and we also do and then lutia chips. So one of the indigenous crops here, we set out to make lutia chips as business for our, especially for our women members. So very recently, we've engaged into giant bamboo nursery and plantation. We were able to plant already more than 20,000 giant bamboos within our domain through a commercial contract with an American company, and was made possible because we have this interfacing capability. We also have our vermicomposting facility. We are selling vermicast already, providing more livelihood. We also have our own cooperative store where our members can buy goods at a lower price, and they can even purchase on credit in case of emergencies. We are also now sharing, as I am doing today, we are sharing our experience for other IP communities who intend to register and operate a cooperative as their economic arm. So, with all this, we have so far we have seen that through the establishment of the interfacing capability, the marginalized sector can receive the intended benefits under our social legislations like the IPRA law. And this will provide those opportunities that will not just uplift the economic life of the indigenous people, it will help in the preservation of the indigenous culture, and also it will help in the preservation and the development of our environment. So thank you for listening, and may Met Babaya bless us all.